Steve knew that the Su family was currently the strongest family in China, so he wanted to make friends with him. Now, knowing that he came to Oru's Hill for almost the same purpose, and he invited him to go to the hotel with him. This is definitely a good opportunity to establish an intersection with the Su family and increase the chance of finding TJ's son. It is definitely killing two birds with one stone. So he said gratefully, Mr. Su, it's true that since my son and his men disappeared, I have not even a single person available in Oru's Hill, so no one arranged a pick-up. If I can get your car if you're going to the hotel together, thank you so much. Shoud smiled slightly. Mr. Steve, you're too polite. Our Su family had some ties with the Rothschild family back then. Although we had some unpleasantness, we finally reached a cooperation, which can be regarded as some friendship. Steve nodded gently, and said flattered, if there is a chance in the future, I hope we can also have substantial cooperation with the Su family, even including the Rothschild family. I can also let my mother walk around a bit more and see if it can lead to new cooperation, Shoud said, feeling very happy. Although he doesn't take Steve seriously, he still has a lot of friendship with the Rothschild family. He couldn't help thinking in his heart, after all, the Rothschild family is the most powerful family in the world, and its true influence is more than 10 times stronger than the Su family. If it can really get along with the Rothschild family in the future, it will be good for the entire Su family, but for myself, it must be of great help, at least it will make me stand more stable in the Su family. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smiled and said to Steve, come Mr. Steve, let's go to the hotel in my car, and I'm going to be a host tonight. Let's have dinner for the two of us and exchange clues by the way. We can also cooperate with each other on the matter of finding someone next. Steve immediately said excitedly, great Mr. Su, there is absolutely no problem with me. Shoud invited Steve to get in his car. As for the others brought by Steve, they were not treated as well. They had to take the car to the hotel. Steve and Shoud sat in the back row of one of the presidential ones. As the convoy departed from the airport, Steve probably introduced details about his son Walter to Shoud. However, Steve didn't know his son Walter's attempt to Doris, nor did he know his nasty actions against Doris's father. Therefore, in his opinion, his son was steadfastly developing business in Oru's Hill. He did not expect that, suddenly one day he'll evaporate, just like that. After listening to his introduction, Shoud was even more puzzled, and said in a low voice, it would be nice to say if it was your son who disappeared alone, but it would be a bit weird to have so many people getting missing all at once. Yes, Steve sighed. I suspected that he was kidnapped at first, but, I haven't received any information about the kidnappers asking for a ransom. After speaking, Steve added, I also asked people to check all the bank records of my son. Since his disappearance, none of his bank accounts have been woven even a penny. If the other party really does it is for money, it is impossible to still not want to ask for money. Yes. Shoud frowned and said, a dozen people can disappear at the same time, and all monitoring records can be erased. The forces behind it must be very difficult to comprehend. Speaking of this, he couldn't help thinking, Leona and Ziyu disappeared in the tunnel, and even Stephen, the bodyguard of the old man, is also missing. It must be very difficult for someone common to do this. Oru's Hill itself is a small second-tier city. Even if there are big people hiding in it, it is impossible for two or more powerful forces to stay here. Maybe the ones who let Steve's son disappear are the same group of people who took Leona and Ziyu. So Shoud hurriedly asked Steve, did your son offend anyone during his time in Oru's Hill? Steve shook his head and said, my son has never been to Oru's Hill before, or even China. This time he was sent to Oru's Hill by the family to develop the family business, and he came here. The time was also very short, so I don't think he will have any enemies here. Shoud asked him, is your son married? Steve hurriedly said truthfully, he's married and have 2 children. Shoud continued to ask. Then his private life is checked? Steve seriously said. I have never heard of improper relations with any woman. Shoud asked again, is he an addict? Number? Absolutely not, Steve said hurriedly. Our family absolutely does not allow any addicts to appear. All adult men must undergo regular urine tests. Once he is found to be an addict, he will be interrupted in all the positions in the family and the withdrawal of all funds. Walter will never touch this red line made by the family. Shoud stretched out his 4 fingers and said, in most criminal cases in the world, there are 4 possibilities. The first is for money, the second is for addicts, the third is for love, and the fourth is for enmity. If the other party kidnapped your son and doesn't want money, this will rule out the possibility of making money. If your son has regular urine tests and he is not a drug addict, then this aspect can also be ruled out. As for in terms of relationships, although you say that your son is very prudent in his private life, he knows his face and doesn't know his heart. What's more, you are a father. To put it ugly, how many women your son has slept with may not be known better than his good friends. You know better, so I think there is still a possibility for emotional reasons. And revenge. Even if your son has just arrived in Orus Hill, it doesn't mean that he won't offend people. Maybe he really offended some very powerful people in the city. Speaking of this, Shoud smacked his lips, and said, I think the possibility of love and hatred is 50-50. You can start to examine these 2 aspects first. Steve nodded gently. Thank you, Mr. Sue, for this insight. I will actively search for relevant clues to see if I can find any breakthrough points. The reason why Shoud did so much analysis for Steve is to hope that Steve can find clues to his son's disappearance through these aspects. He now suspects that the disappearance of his son was done by the same people who are responsible for the disappearance of Leona and Ziyu. He has no way to find clues. If Steve can, it would be a curve to save the efforts. At this moment, Steve suddenly said, that's right, my son seems to have a close college classmate in Orus Hill, and it seems to be a woman. Shoud immediately said excitedly, this is a very valuable clue. If this woman has something to do with your son's disappearance, first find a way to find a breakthrough from her.